Similar to a point Pxy in R squared, we can also associate a point Pxyz in R cubed, a vector. So for its definition, a vector in space or a 3-vector or simply a vector is a 3 by 1 matrix. This matrix here where x, y, and z are real numbers called the components of the vector x. Similarly, two vectors in space are to be equal or are said to be equal if their respective components are equal. Geometrically, a vector in R cube can be represented by this one. Okay, so this one is vector A, okay, with x, y, and the z component. So, paano ito i-form? Okay, so itong red natin is the x-axis. This green is the y-axis, and this blue is the z-axis. Okay, for this vector A, the components are, okay, this one, right? Another component is for y is this, and the z component is up to 6, okay? So if you're going to move this point of x, let's say, ayan. Okay, so it will move from 2 to 4. So nagmo-move na din siya lahat. Right? So ilagay natin sa 6. For the component y, let us say hanggang 4. Ayan. And for the z component, ito yung nag-aakyat baba doon sa iyong vector. Okay? So that's the purpose of the z. Ito naman, okay, moving forward and backward on the x-axis, the x component. For the y component, and so forward and backward also. Okay. So if z is 0, okay, that is just parang a vector no on the xy plane. So this one is the xy plane. Okay. Okay. Ikot tayo. Okay. So ito, xy plane na, no? Okay. We have that. Okay, so parallel to r squared, okay, similar with vectors on a plane, the following represent different directed line segments representing the same vector. So ito na vector has component x prime minus x, y prime minus y, and z prime minus z. And this vector also has the component x prime minus x, y prime minus y, and z prime minus z. Vector addition and scalar multiplication in R cube are also defined in similar way. Alright, so for the definition, we consider vector u and vector v be two vectors in R cube. Then the sum of these two vectors is the vector denoted by this one, u plus v. That is just the sum of the corresponding components of the two vectors. Alright, so similarly on the scalar multiple, so consider this a vector and C a scalar or a real number, then the scalar multiple denoted by Cu of the vector u by c. So this is similar notation to r squared. So that is the vector cv. So c times u1. So corresponding components of the vector u are multiplied by c. Okay, so I have a question here. What do you think is the zero vector and a difference of two vectors mean in R cube? So ano ba yung zero vector at ano yung difference ng two vectors in R cube? Geometrically, the sum of two vectors in R cube is represented by this one. So, this is our vector U. Kita naman ang ating vector V, and this is our vector U plus V. So, for the components of the vector U, alright, ito, the components are for the X axis, that is U1. So that is from here, from the origin up to this point. The component for Y, okay, of this vector is U sub 2. Right? Ito yan. Okay, and the component for Z is U sub 3, which is this distance here. Okay? So, this is your vector U. So, ang kanyang component ay U1, U2, at saka U3. Okay, ito. For vector V, components are, okay, ito yung vector V. So, trace natin. The components are, according to this one, is V1, V2, and V3. So, from the origin up to V1, alright, then we will move U2 to the y-axis, and we will move up V1. What I mean is this is V1, this is V2, and this is V3. Right? For the sum of the two vectors, corresponding components must be added. So U1 plus V1, U2 plus V2, V3, U3 plus V3. Kaya yung sum niya is this one. Okay? Okay, so let us have this another example. Consider this our vector U, and this is our vector V. So the sum of vector U and vector V is vector W. This 3 plus 1 is 4, 2 plus 2 is 4, 2 plus 1 is 3. Okay, so this diagram, yung x-axis natin is the red one, our y-axis is the green one, and the z-axis is the blue one. Okay, so this is our vector U. Okay, so from the origin up to this point is our vector U. Our vector V is this vector. Okay, and the sum is this U plus V. Okay, so kung napapansin niyo that vector fall within this plane here. Okay, that is our vector U plus V. Okay, so kapag i-zero natin itong z values, okay, ibig sabihin ang z dito sa vector U and z sa vector V is 0. Kung napapansin niyo, so yung ating sum, right, is similar, parang similar lang siya doon sa ating two-dimensional. So it is on a plane. So this particular plane, okay, the xy plane. Okay. Okay. Pero kung dagdagan natin ng value, okay, itong x, let us say 1. Okay. So kung 1 yan siya dyan, so vector U will have an elevated siya ng 1 unit. Okay. 1 unit above that plane or xy plane. So kaya kung makikita ninyo dito, nag-slant na siya, alright? Because U is elevated, 1 unit. Okay? You have that. So kung i-1 din natin itong z for the V, okay, that plane will become this one. Okay? So, umakyat din kasi siya ng 1 unit. Okay? Okay. So, similar doon sa two-dimensional r squared. Okay? Uh, so, this one is the 2 times u, or the scalar multiple of u by 2. Okay? So, ito yung ating vector u that is from the origin up to this point here. So, ang ginagawa nitong scalar multiplication, okay, so itong vector u is again multiplied by 2. So, parang ganun lang din kanina, no? Sa, sa vector doon sa r squared. Okay, so the negative of u is of course doon sa kanyang opposite direction, but since negative 1/2 siya, kalahati lang, no? Kalahati lang nitong u natin. Whereas itong negative 2u, so kasing ano lang din sila ng components pero on na negative na nito. Okay? And then our negative u is from this origin up to this point. Completely opposite direction lang siya ng vector u natin.